Okay, everybody. We're at SOE Live, and I'm here with Holly Longdale, and I'm really terrible at pronouncing your first name. Akil. Okay. So, yes, and we're talking about the new EverQuest 2 expansion, which is going to be, of course, freaking awesome. There's a ton of stuff in it. So what we were thinking is, first I'd like to ask you a couple of things about our favorite bits from what was shown here today. Then I'll have you guys follow up with a little bit with some of your favorite parts, because there's a lot to it. So two things that stood out for us right away, of course, Kithicor Forest. Tell me a little bit about how you're approaching that zone, because it's one of those classic EQ zones that has so many stories and elements to it, and a lot of history. So what did you take away from that and work that into kind of the way EQ2, the story expands and changes?
Go ahead. I'll let Akil do it.
First, the area of the zone is always dark. So even when it's daytime, it's going to be very dark and very moody. And another thing is when the sun goes down, it's going to get invaded by undead, which is one of the things that people remember most from Kithicor Forest, is that when the sun set, it got more dangerous. And so there are going to be some events that only take place during the night, and some special undead things that go on during the nighttime there. It's also the location, the home of the primordial Malice, who are one of the key factions in the expansion, and they're very evil and dark and sinister, and they've got strong ties to Lannis, which ties them back to Bloody Kithicor, which is also a big event from Norathian history. So it's got lots of ties, both thematically and visually and with the lore.
Yeah, and from the artist development, it was very important to them that Kithicor keep that sense of, if you didn't have direction, if you didn't have a map, would you feel lost? Would you feel enveloped by this really dark space? So that you'll feel, just like you did in EverQuest, that you knew you were coming on something sinister. Yeah.
Yeah, the travel always was a big part of it for me, because it would be that kind of time of day thing. It's like if you weren't paying attention, next thing you know, it's nighttime and it's, oh crap, where's the edge of the zone? So I can hug the wall and get through. Well, are you going to kind of retain that travel, kind of that fear of travel through the area aspect to a degree?
There'll be some of that. I mean, it's hard to recapture that exactly because you can fly now, and so it's hard to really make getting around dangerous when you can just hop on your mount and fly away. But as you're doing quests and as you're adventuring on the area, there'll be some of the danger that you expect, but it's not going to be exactly the same. Also, it's an island now, so no zone walls.
Yeah.
You could have flying a dead bunny that hop up and knock you down.
Tom will hear that. We'll have undead bunnies in about a week. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So our other big favorite, or a favorite for me anyway, because I played EQ2 since launch, so I remember the island very, very well.
Yeah.
I'm pretty hyped about that being prestige housing.
Yes.
How is that going to be different than some of the other prestige housing in any way? Are you going to add any of the bits in? Because there were a couple of little instances, for example.
Right.
Will you have access to those kind of areas, or is it mostly the overlands map?
So it's interesting that you asked. So Tim Heidelar, our art director, he's very protective of that zone and how it's presented. As a prestige house, we did remove one area just because it seemed excessive, and given item limits, we wanted you to be able to decorate this area. And it's not an area that I think you would expect to miss. But the tower you're going to be able to go into, he's going to actually build one of the instances in the space, so you'll be able to go there. So it is very important that we retain those little niches and those little areas and zones so that it feels exactly like it did originally. And at the same time, Akil can address, we obviously have a new Isle of Refuge, but you'll see some hints and reminiscing areas, but it is new. It's been revamped.
Yeah, one of the stories that we want to tell in the expansion is what happened to the Isle of Refuge, why they stopped bringing refugees there, why it got closed off, what's been going on with the Farseas trading company since the island's been closed, so that we want to cover all of that, as long as the recent history of the Isle of Refuge, which is really what's going to drive players through the expansion, and that's that there's this, I call it a dolly bomb. It's supposed to be like this hyper magic bomb got set off in the middle of the zone, and was all focused around the Keevan's magic. And that's what sent this guy, Captain Greymass, who's one of the captains, obviously, for the Farseas Trading Company. That's what sends them off, running around, and players kind of Carmen Sandiego them around the Shattered Seas.
Yeah.
All right. So, in the big grand scope of the expansion, like, what are some of your favorite bits that are being added this time that maybe you would have liked to have been able to do previously, or that just this is the perfect time to be able to do them?
I hate to sound like I'm doing a pitch, but the new terrain tool, once you actually get into the zones, it's unbelievable. It's amazing from the lighting. We're doing work on shadows. We're doing work on performance. And just because now, if we could, and I think in the past, Tim Heidler and the art team have done panels where they've explained how painstaking zones used to be to make. And now, especially working with design, they can easily paint textures, which is something we couldn't do before. So you're going to see a lot more blending in some of the images you may have seen. So the Isle of Dashin has that nice, like, kind of orange feel. The islands, it's just all beautifully painted, and it really, really comes to life, especially when you see the new characters matched in those environments. With the blends, it just looks unbelievably beautiful. So I'm always excited about the content because these guys always do something incredible and new. Kyle Valley, who's our lead designer, incredibly creative and very ambitious. These two, both Akil and Kyle, are always trying to set the bar even higher. So the content you're going to see is very interactive and unique, fun, super fun to play. So it's always us taking the feedback we get from the players and taking it to that next level, and we're always excited to get you guys in there and see what you think. And player feedback, I think, you may have noticed over time in the past few years, is becoming ever more important. So we take that feedback and react to it and improve our content.
How about yourself?
For me, so I've got two things. For story-wise, I am most excited to be done with Age's End. Like, it was a great story, but, I mean, it was really the story that EverQuest 2 has been telling since launch. And so I'm really excited that now we get to blaze into new territory, and we get to explore some new villains and new storylines and just kind of explore Norath as in this entering a new age, essentially. I mean, I think it's exciting and it's fun, and I can't wait to see where we take it and show you all where we're taking it. And I'm really excited with what this expansion is going to do with that story. We're trying some new things with the way that we present characters and storylines. So I'm hoping that the story feels a little more personal. That's my hope. And but yeah, that's kind of in terms of lore. Aside from that, I'm really excited for Ssraeshza. It's an awesome zone, and I'm super excited for the Ossuary of Malevolence. Like, the screenshots do not do that zone justice. Like, it is gorgeous, but yeah.
And the Broken Skull Bay, the pirate, the vertical play space, it's just crazy. Yeah.
One of the things, I mean, EQ2 tried pushing that even with back to Desert of Flames, more so than other MMOs.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was like a big deal.
It was, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So it's cool that you're still kind of trying to push the envelope there.
Yeah.
And I do have to ask with Ssraeshza Temple, like, am I going to have to farm anything for keyed access to anything once I get into that map?
No. I was going to say, you're going to have to play to find out.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It's just one of those kind of fun, like...
Absolutely,
But some of it does harken back, like the teleporter idea. You saw some of that in the images. So they've remained true to the essence of what Ssraeshza Temple was in EverQuest, yeah.
And there will be things that tie in thematically and visually to Ssraeshza Temple, but we're not going to have a pain key quest you have to grind through.
Yeah.
Like special weapon pieces you have to assemble or anything. I know, right? Well, and it was always one of those weird areas, too. I think it's interesting, first of all, that you said it's upside down. That's kind of a cool way to present it. Is any of the surrounding area, because that was always one of those parts of Luclin I found really interesting. I played in Necro, so it was all undead in the map, so it was kind of fun, but it was the gray, so there was an XP penalty sort of there, so people didn't really stay in that area because they didn't want to for various reasons, and I thought it made sense. On one hand, it's this big overland map. On the other hand, I thought it was cool that it made you want to get to the temple.
Right.
Because of that. Are you going to retain like any of the area surrounding the temple, or is it more kind of like a chunk of it fell?
So it's again, the whole temple fell, and so actually Grimshale is the island that Ssraeshza's underneath. You'll see ruins on it that are essentially the bottom floor of the temple. For the gray, it's actually the gray that protected the temple as it fell through space from the moon, and so it's not really there anymore. But it was basically the magical dome that they created to keep the gray, to keep the air out of the gray, that kept the temple from burning up and falling apart. And yeah, so it's not there, but there's a reason why it's not there.
That part
Yeah.
as the rationale for how it's survived.
Why? Yeah. Yeah. Cats on the moon. There's no cats in Ssraeshza Temple, are there? No cats.
Well, maybe. But.
Yeah. Now there will be.
Okay, I think that's about all we have time for. I'm sure we'll be speaking some more and talking to you guys definitely throughout the weekend about EverQuest 2. We're really looking forward to the expansion. And when is that coming out again?
Oh, yeah. So on November 11th, we launch for all access members for 2 weeks. It'll be exclusive for then, and November 25th, it opens for everybody. Yeah. So be there. Beta, we're still working on that date, but of course we'll share it with you as soon as we establish it. But it's probably going to be late September, early October. Yeah.
Sounds great. Well, we're looking forward to it. So thanks for taking the time to talk.
Great. Thank you.
And have fun this weekend.